Suddenly, he is transported to a different world in the role of his MMO character, and his summoners promptly kiss him on both cheeks. Surprised by his situation, Diablo's summoners argue over who was responsible for his summoning. Each believes they acted as the sole summoner. Diablo is left amazed that he received kisses and regrets not savoring the moment more. As the two summoners persist in their dispute over who brought Diablo forth, they inadvertently inform the inquisitive Diablo that he is situated atop a towering structure known as the Starfall Tower. Approaching the arguing women, Diablo realizes that he has never truly communicated with anyone throughout his life, placing him in a challenging situation. Consequently, Diablo resolves to embody his MMO character and speaks to the two in a condescending tone, commanding them to shake hands and smile. Although they are initially reluctant, an overwhelming force compels the two to comply with Diablo's directive. After this command is carried out, slave collars materialize around the necks of both summoners, leaving all three of them in disbelief. At the base of the tower, the group discusses the unsuccessful ritual. During the conversation, Diablo recognizes that his Demon Lord ring reflected the enslavement spell back onto those who attempted to enslave him. Explaining to his summoners that magic holds no sway over him, they set off toward the nearby town to lift the enslavement spell affecting them. The elf, acknowledging that she and her companion have yet to introduce themselves to Diablo, names herself Shara L. Greenwood, an aspiring adventurer. Her partner, the Pantherian, identifies herself as Rem Gallo, who seeks to sharpen her skills as an adventurer. As Diablo is categorized as a rare summoned entity, he dismisses the label, not wanting to unveil his status as a recluse, and asserts that he is a demon lord. Shara is taken aback and impressed to learn that she summoned a demon lord, which irritates Rem, igniting yet another clash between the two. Diablo interrupts them with a sharp retort. Reaching their destination of Faltra City, they check in at the Peace of Mind Inn, where they are welcomed by the cheerful innkeeper May. Feeling nauseous from being in what he deems a large crowd, Diablo is further taken aback when Shara expresses her desire to register a room that's shared with him. This is primarily due to their financial constraints, and Rem interjects, urging that Diablo stay in her room since she is the one who summoned him. A disagreement arises between the two, and they are interrupted by May, who threatens to evict them. It is then disclosed that the three of them will occupy a room with one bed. Pondering his situation regarding the single bed, a woman familiar to Rem, named Celestine Baudelaire, and her two companions enter the room. Diablo remembers her name, and Shara explains that Celestine is the leader of the Mages Association. Recalling that Celestine, or Celis as she prefers to be called, is a key character in the Cross Reverie game, Celis originally intended to converse with Rem. But upon noticing the slave collars on both Rem and Shara's necks, as well as Diablo's presence, she expresses her intrigue about their circumstances. That night at the inn's cafeteria, Celis is updated on everything pertaining to the unsuccessful enslavement ritual. She's also informed that Diablo cannot undo the enslavement placed upon them. After Celis realizes she will need to start her research from scratch to find a way to remove the slave collars around Shara and Rem's necks, Diablo questions her assertively about her intentions with them, which provokes a reprimand from one of her followers named Galluck. Although Diablo feels intimidated by Galluck internally, he responds with a menacing retort, which annoys Galluck and earns him a reprimand from Celis as well. The conversation then shifts briefly to Celis and Rem, who declines the offer of additional bodyguards despite Celis's good intentions. With that matter settled, Celis's group departs for the evening, and Diablo inquires of Rem about her association with Celis. Rem declines to discuss it, leading Diablo to have a realization that Rem's secret is tied to a crucial main story event, which should be learned in advance to prevent a disaster. Seizing Rem and hoisting her onto his shoulder, Diablo takes her back to their room to torture her. Back in their room, Diablo torments Rem in a playful and innocent way until she ultimately admits her secret to him. Rem discloses that she has the Demon Lord Krebsholm sealed inside her body, and Diablo remembers the Demon Lord as the most formidable boss in the game, indicating that she desires to free and eradicate Krebsholm's soul from her body. Diablo then explains that doing so would result in Rem's death in the process. Moreover, he infers that Rem's relationship with Celis is linked to this ambition of hers, and that Celis is the only one aware of Rem's situation. The sealing of the Demon Lord is also hereditary, since Rem's mother had Krebsholm sealed within her body before passing away. Fully conscious of Rem's situation, Diablo pledges to assist Rem, which makes her emotional, as Diablo promises not to abandon her due to her condition. Afterward, Diablo embarks on a trip around the town while pondering how he has accomplished everything all by himself due to his nature. Eventually, he is approached by Galluck and his colleagues from the Mages Association. This results in a confrontation between Diablo and Galak, who summons a level 30 salamander. While Galak brags and threatens Diablo regarding his summon, Diablo observes that although it is impressive, its level is far too weak. The salamander then releases a burst of fire at Diablo, who emerges from it unharmed. In a state of panic, Galak commands his summon to incinerate Diablo, and the salamander unleashes a massive flamethrower-like attack from its mouth. However, that attack continues to have no effect on the level 150 Diablo. Equipping his wand, Diablo then casts Explosion, which obliterates the salamander. Approaching the bewildered Galak, who demands to know who Diablo is, Diablo responds that he is a Diablo, a demon lord from another world. Awakening in the Peace of Mind Inn, Diablo comes to the realization that his experiences from the day before were not merely a dream. Diablo then finds himself in an uncomfortable position in bed with the two women. Later that day, while strolling through the streets, Diablo observes the various races that inhabit the world. He notes that in the area they are walking, no humans can be seen, to which Rem responds that the district they are in is exclusively for demi-humans, and then inquires if levels serve as the primary measure of strength in this world. Shara affirms this, but admits she has not yet discovered her level, while Rem asserts that she is a level 40 summoner. The place they are currently headed to, the Adventurers Guild, should be capable of revealing Shara's level once she registers there. At the Adventurers Guild, a confrontation between two beastmen unfolds, and the overall environment makes Diablo anxious. Without wasting any time, the trio makes their way to the second floor to register as adventurers. Since he cannot read, Diablo has Shara complete his registration, stating that he detests tedious and insignificant tasks, while Shara relishes the idea as it strengthens her position as his true master. However, the situation becomes more complex when a blood seal is required as the final step. Although feeling nervous about this, Diablo maintains a brave demeanor and, as he sees it, makes a slight cut on his thumb. Conversely, his small cut ends up being deeper than he had expected. Next, the group stands in front of a mirror that evaluates their levels. Shara discovers she is level 30, much to her disappointment, and then Diablo steps up, prompting a chaotic reaction from the mirror. This outburst draws the attention of the guildmaster Sylvie, who invites the trio into her office. Inside the office, Sylvie explains that due to Diablo's high level, there are no available job requests for him. However, Diablo expresses his willingness to work simply for the rewards. Consequently, Sylvie assigns the group the task of subjugating a Madara snake in the man-eating woods. On their way to the woods, the group discusses the job they've been assigned and the belief that its requester was Celis from the Mages Association. The conversation then shifts to Diablo suggesting they should have utilized a teleport spell or item to reach their location, although he notes that no such options exist. Finally arriving at the man-eating woods, Diablo observes the grim appearance of the woods in comparison to the game. Just at that moment, Shara explains that they are encircled, prompting Diablo to cast Burst Rain, igniting a portion of the woods and forcing the ambushers to reveal themselves. The ambushers turned out to be elves, one of whom Shara recognized as Celsior, who asserts he is there to save her. Celsior aims his bow and arrow at Diablo, while insisting he free Shara, the princess of the Kingdom of Greenwood. Asking why the elves would request assistance at the Adventurers Guild through the Mages Association. This leads Diablo to deduce that only one individual could have arranged this situation. Shara expresses her feelings, stating she does not wish to marry her brother and have his child. A back-and-forth argument ensues between Shara and Celsior, prompting Diablo to retaliate against the elves, who shoot a volley of arrows at him, but they prove ineffective. Celsior then employs what is known as a Tempest Arrow and directs it at Diablo, but that too fails to affect him. Unimpressed by the elves' antics, Diablo casts Freesia, freezing the surrounding area in ice. Suddenly, Galak appears and admonishes the elves, only to be scolded by Diablo and chastised by Rem. Upset, Galak flees the situation, and Shara commands the elves to tell her brother that she will never return home. With their business concluded at that location, they head back to the inn. That evening in their room at the inn, Shara and Diablo share a heartfelt conversation that is interrupted by an angry Rem. Diablo and the group gather in Sylvie's office, where she assigns them a special task that was specifically commissioned for Diablo. The request was submitted by Celis and is thought to be connected to one of her subordinates' recent misconduct towards the group. Rem expresses her reluctance to accept it because she owes a debt to Celis, but Diablo remains adamant that he will go with or without Rem. Once this is resolved, Shara reads the quest details, which involve a straightforward delivery assignment, requiring them to deliver refreshments to the Bridge of Ulug. Just as Diablo and the others are about to depart from the Adventurers Guild, a man called Emil halts them and confronts Diablo. With an air of arrogance, Emile introduces himself as a superhuman level 50 warrior and challenges Diablo to a duel. While Diablo finds Emile's personality impressive, he assumes his game persona and mocks Emile. In response, Emile proclaims his love for all women and declares that he will rescue the enslaved Rem and Shara from Diablo. Without wasting any time, Emile employs the sword ability, Sword Smite, against Diablo, but he counters the strike with his wand. For his following move, Emile attempts another sword skill known as Alp's Fall, but Diablo knocks him out before he can execute it. Reflecting on the differences in skill levels of individuals in the world compared to the original game, getting back up, Emile attempts to assault Diablo again, only to be halted by Rem and Shara, who explain their circumstances to him. Now aware of the entire situation, Emile laughs it off and apologizes for his previous conduct. He reintroduces himself, stating that if they ever require assistance, they should not hesitate to reach out to him. And then he cheerfully walks away. Afterward, Diablo and Shara, with the quest items, proceed to the Bridge of Ulrug, and during their journey, Shara proposes they take a swim in a nearby river. Embarrassed by the suggestion, Diablo dismisses that idea, and they move on. Upon arriving at the Bridge of Ulrug, they are halted by a group of soldiers who mistake Diablo for a fallen. However, one soldier named Boris recognizes him as the Horned Demon. The two then discover from Boris that a fallen with a large legion of demons is approaching. Observing that this kind of event never took place in the games, Diablo reflects on what might have caused it. Additionally, Diablo remarks that since the soldiers stationed at the bridge have such low levels, the demons would breach the bridge. Conversely, the demonic intruders wouldn't be able to harm Faltra City due to the barrier established there. Shara remarks that the invasion might be connected to the demons seeking to resurrect Krebskulm, and Diablo concludes they must be aware of Rem's seal. The soldier Boris then presents Diablo a note of thanks for their delivery, and after noticing Boris's distress, Diablo offers to remain and repel the invasion. At the inn, Celis informs Rem that she has expelled Galuk due to his recent behavior. The conversation subsequently shifts to Diablo's past and how Celis is doubtful of him being a fallen rather than a demon lord from another world. Rem counters that assertion, defending Diablo as not being a fallen. Just then, a frantic Galuk bursts onto the scene with his hands stained in blood, insisting on hearing from Celis that he was not dismissed from the Mages Association. Right as Galuk was about to stab himself with a black demonic dagger, Rem attempts to intervene by summoning a shadow snake. This effort fails, as Galuk still manages to impale himself and then morphs into the fallen Gregor. Meanwhile, Diablo continues to battle against the demon invaders until he is confronted by the demon commander named Edelgard, and the two engage in combat. Refugees enter Faltra City under the impression they will be safe from the approaching demon invaders, thanks to the barrier that Celis established over the city. Unbeknownst to them, she finds herself in a difficult situation due to her former subordinate Galuk, who has transformed into a fallen named Gregor. Rem and Celis flee from the Peace of Mind Inn, and when they reach a dead end, Gregor confronts them and Rem calls forth Asalau. However, the summoned entity is quickly defeated with a single blow. From above, Emile descends near Rem and Celis, while a large group of adventurers arrives to assist them. Emile then engages Gregor in battle, but despite being overpowered by his adversary, he continues to fight stubbornly, adhering to his creed as a protector of all women. Meanwhile, at the Bridge of Ulrug, Diablo's fight with Edelgard persists. Pointing out the pointless nature of Edelgard's assaults against him, she prepares to unleash Sacrifice Charge on Diablo, but it proves ineffective. Shocked that her special attack had no impact, Edelgard is mocked by Diablo, who remarks that her strike is the first time he has experienced damage since arriving in that realm. Just then, Boris informs Diablo that Faltra City has been invaded by a fallen and is attacking Celis and Rem. Recognizing the serious predicament, Diablo begins to conjure a grand magic spell and cautions Edelgard to retreat or he will unleash it. Conversely, Edelgard stands her ground. Thus, Diablo casts White Nova, which obliterates the nearby area, including the demon forces. Although gravely injured, Edelgard survives the spell, and without wasting a moment, Diablo employs the magic spell known as Return. At that point, Gregor has already overcome the adventurers surrounding him, and a severely injured Emile refuses to acknowledge defeat. Just then, Diablo arrives and casts a wind spell at Gregor, propelling him backward. Before commencing his battle with Gregor, Diablo expresses gratitude to Emile for his efforts. He then bestows healing energy upon Celis to treat Emile's injuries before turning his attention to Gregor. Opening the confrontation, Gregor casts Dark Bullet, but Diablo's ring instantly deflects the spell back at him. Diablo then launches his own Dark Bullet spell, In retaliation, Gregor casts Dark Press. However, that maneuver is reflected back onto him, and Diablo subsequently casts several Dark Press spells of his own. The gravitational force from the attack pins Gregor down, who then pleads for mercy, but Diablo remains unyielding. He ultimately finishes Gregor off with the magic spell Naraku. With the battle concluded, Shera embraces Diablo tearfully, and Rem grasps his hand, thanking him for her rescue. Attempting to maintain his persona, Diablo asserts that the sole reason he helped Rem is that she is his due to the slave collar around her neck. Eventually, the casualty figures resulting from the assault on the city are published, and most of the fatalities were adventurers. 10 days post-attack on the city, Diablo is lying on his bed and is almost approached by Shera, who is subsequently interrupted by Rem with a dropkick. This action prompts the two to cling to Diablo's arms until Sylvie enters their room. She informs the group that the city lord has been given a non-negotiable demand to surrender Shera within 10 days or face war. Therefore, the city lord and Sylvie urge Diablo to avert the conflict from happening. Shocked that the Kingdom of Greenwood is going to declare war over her, Shera learns from Sylvie that it's the truth. She then inquires of Diablo if he will accept the mission given by her and the city lord to avert the conflict. Internally, Diablo feels compelled to refuse the task due to the nature of the mission. Sylvie then explains that Shera's brother Kira has placed a significant bounty on Shera's head. Hearing this information shocks Diablo to such a degree that he becomes furious and resolves to accept the task and meet with the city lord. The trio is then guided by Sylvie to the Lord's manor, where she reveals what information she has regarding the Lord. Upon arriving at the manor, the group meets the Lord of the city, Chester Ray Galford. Sylvie manages to prompt Galford to introduce himself to the group, and subsequently, Shera and Rem also introduce themselves. Although unsettled, Diablo manages to introduce himself to Galford. Thrilled that he successfully spoke without faltering, Galford mentions the report about Diablo being a demon lord from another world. Responding to that remark, Diablo speaks in character, which flusters the group. Yet Galford does not take offense to the comment and elaborates further on his request. Galford then asserts that the current dilemma could readily be resolved if Shera simply surrendered to the Kingdom of Greenwood, but Diablo refuses to permit that. When Galford questions what reason Shera would have for leaving her luxurious life in the Kingdom of Greenwood, she replies that her goals and dreams would never be fulfilled there. In response to her statement, Diablo remarks how achieving freedom is a challenging endeavor. However, it is a worthwhile pursuit as long as one does not stray from their own path. After those issues are addressed, Galford introduces an Imperial Knight from the capital, a woman named Alicia Christella. The Imperial Knight is introduced to everyone, and once she has gotten to know them all, Alicia presents Sylvie with a bag of money that was reparations from the capital. Alicia then shares a bonding moment with Shera, expressing her support for Shera's decision. Although Diablo feels envious of Alicia's ability to communicate, she states her admiration for Diablo for safeguarding the bridge of Ulug and Faltra City from the fallen. Embarrassed by Alicia's praise, Diablo thanks her, but in character, back in the city streets, the group heads to a weaponsmith. Diablo's aim is to obtain a weapon that will make it easier for him to confront weaker foes. They proceed, and Diablo acquires a scythe for himself. Just as they are about to make their way to an apothecary to purchase potions, the group is suddenly attacked by bounty hunters who abduct Shera. Diablo, Alicia, and Emile, who shows up at the end, handle the situation. That afternoon, Emile reveals that he found out from the Adventurers Guild about the bounty on Shera placed by her brother. When questioned about his plans regarding the group of bounty hunters, Emile replies that he plans to teach them a lesson. With Emile now out of the scene, Diablo has a short conversation with Shera concerning her safety now that she's become a target for bounty hunters. Rem also inserts herself into this moment, and Alicia expresses her regret for her failure amidst the chaos. Conversely, Diablo instructs her to be more compassionate toward herself, to which Alicia eagerly agrees, contrary to what Diablo wished for her to feel. The noise of someone's stomach growling is then heard, and surprisingly, it's not Shera's, but Alicia's. Thus, the group sets off to find some food while discussing their meal preferences. In the cafeteria of the Peace of Mind Inn, Celis visits Diablo's party to notify them that she has located someone who can remove the slave collars from Rem and Shera. Alicia interjects, emphasizing the significance of their mission concerning the Kingdom of Greenwood. However, Diablo determines that addressing the issue with the slave collars will not obstruct their efforts with the Kingdom of Greenwood. Subsequently, the group at the slave market finds Diablo a bit taken aback by the treatment of the slaves there. The owner of the establishment, Medios, welcomes the group, and initially assumes that Diablo intends to sell one of his slaves. This prompts a sharp comeback from Diablo, whose magical energy begins to radiate from his body, which Meteos notices. Shera also explains that she can perceive Diablo's magical power as well. Eventually, Meteos examines the letter written by Celis regarding Rem and Shera's circumstances and consents to assist them. Meteos also observes the magical energy emanating from Rem and asks if she became pregnant by a demon. A moment unfolds between Rem and Shera, after which Meteos describes that the energy could originate from a fallen. Diablo interjects and insists that they discover how to eliminate the slave collars from Shera and Rem's necks. Feeling unwell, Rem chooses to stay outside and is accompanied by Alicia, leading to a heartfelt conversation between them. Back inside the caravan, Diablo discovers the method for removing the slave collar through magical flow and physical touch. Remarkably, Diablo makes astonishing progress very quickly. That night, it is learned that Diablo has quit right as they were about to complete the ritual. This is due to the complexity and strength of the magic associated with the slave collar. Just as Alicia was preparing to head to her private room at the inn, the melodic sound of a flute filled the air, and outside their room stood a young-looking male elf. This elf was Kira, Shera's older brother, who politely introduces himself to the group. Angered by this man, Diablo challenges Kira, pointing out that he has placed a bounty on Shera's head, to which Kira admits. Kira then mentions that he was made aware of a group of bounty hunters who failed to capture his sister. Wary of Kira, Diablo makes it clear that he has no plans to surrender Shera to him, but Kira simply remarks that he is pleased to see his sister in good health. Additionally, he shifts the blame for the bounty and the threats of war onto his father. Shera does not believe her brother's demeanor, and even though Kira appears remorseful, Rem is not convinced either, stating she leans towards Shera's perspective of him. Not wanting to create a disturbance, Kira departs, but he informs them he will return the next day and inquires what would happen if Shera chooses to come back home of her own volition. Dismissing the idea, Diablo replies that there is no chance she would ever consider that. Later, Rem and Shera engage in a conversation that quickly turns into a playful tussle between the two. At the Kingdom of Greenwood, Kira is perched atop a tall tree while playing his flute. Upon finishing, he declares that Shera will be his once more, and she will bear his child. Diablo experiences a childhood dream where two children he believed were his friends were actually just exploiting him for superior equipment in a game. Upon waking from this dream, Diablo finds himself in a troubling situation in bed. Subsequently, Rem departs with Alicia to inform Celis and Galford about their encounter with Kira. Left alone with Shera, Diablo begins to concoct potions in preparation for the challenges that lie ahead. Remarkably, Diablo is capable of creating potions simply by concentrating on the task at hand. During an intimate conversation between Diablo and Shera, the sound of a flute being played can be heard. In a trance-like state, Shera expresses her desire to return to her home in the Kingdom of Greenwood and then departs on a wagon that coincidentally Kira is riding. Feeling unsettled, Rem and Alicia return to Diablo, who tells them that Shera has gone back to the Kingdom of Greenwood. Curious about the reason, Diablo does not respond to Rem's question and instead retreats into the inn to lie on his bed, feeling disheartened about the situation. Later that day, Rem visits Diablo in his room and attempts to comfort him by discussing Shera. Asking if Shera could have been placed under Kira's hypnosis, Diablo acknowledges it, noting that when Kira arrived, the sounds of her flute were audible. Reflecting on his past foolish mistakes regarding what he believed were friendships, which turned out to be mere exploitation, Diablo is determined to retrieve Shera. Rem inquires about Diablo's intentions, and after some contemplation, he resolves to reclaim Shera as well. Alicia also offers to accompany them. Now equipped with a complete party, the group sets out to confront Kira. Meanwhile, within a tent in the Kingdom of Greenwood, Shera, now captured and secured to the wall, is informed by her brother that trying to escape is pointless. This is attributed to the powers of the elven flute. Kira then questions Shera, insisting on what commands Diablo gave her. Responding honestly, Shera tells her brother that the only command she was ever given was to shake Rem's hand while smiling. Kira is enraged by this revelation, as he cannot believe such a trivial order was issued. Regardless, Kira feels assured that he has successfully subdued Shera. However, at that moment, a massive explosion erupts from outside. Annoyed by the interruption, Kira unleashes a fabric-consuming slime, which then begins to ensnare Shera and consume her clothing. Calling for assistance, Diablo, along with Rem and Alicia, arrives to save the captured Shera. Observing Shera's situation, Diablo expresses his regret for not dealing with Kira earlier, even if it meant reducing everything around him to ashes. He subsequently wields his scythe to liberate Shera from her restraints, eliminating the slime in the process. Angered that his guards failed in their duty, Diablo points out that Kira neglected to notice the commotion from outside earlier. Upon checking outside, Kira is stunned to find that not only have his guards been vanquished, but also the area they occupied has been engulfed in flames. Kira demands to know if Diablo intends to provoke a war with the elves. However, Diablo's true objective was to ascertain whether Shera genuinely wished to return home of her own accord. When asked for confirmation, Kira prompts Shera to declare whether she desires to go home or not. Under her brother's coercive magic, Shera responds affirmatively, stating that she does wish to return to the Kingdom of Greenwood. To counteract Kira's sorcery, Diablo uses Shera's slave collar to lift the spell of manipulation, leading Shera to weep as she asserts her desire to be free and remain with Diablo and Rem forever. Cornered, Kira calls forth the Elven Kingdom's treasure, the Hydra, and boldly, despite Shera's caution, Diablo steps up to confront it. Diablo and his team confront the treasured summon of the Kingdom of Greenwood, the Hydra. Despite Shera's warning about its immense power, Diablo confidently asserts that he will annihilate it. Observing that the creature was not included in the original Cross Reverie game like Kira's flute, Diablo finds these revelations quite thrilling. To kick off the battle, Diablo casts Heaven's Fall, successfully destroying one of the Hydra's heads. But it quickly regenerates the lost head. The newly formed Hydra head then unleashes the wind variant of Dragon's Breath, sending Diablo flying backward. This attack is a typical physical strike rather than a magical one, putting Diablo at a disadvantage since he can only deflect magical attacks. Recognizing that summons usually possess a single skill, Diablo notes that the Hydra has two, and soon all four heads unleash multiple Dragon's Breath assaults upon him, while Diablo processes the last strike against him as the Hydra continues its rampage. From a safe distance with Rem and Alicia, Shera yells to Diablo that he can conquer the Hydra by destroying its core. Kira explains that the Hydra's core shifts throughout its body, making it nearly impossible to locate and eliminate. Nevertheless, now aware of this vulnerability, Diablo slides beneath the Hydra's belly and casts Matoi Azuna, effectively eviscerating it. With the battle concluded, Diablo intends to execute Kira, but is interrupted by Shera, just as a wounded Celsior arrives and positions himself in front of Kira in an effort to shield the prince. Shera expresses that while she despises Kira, he remains her family. In disgust, Kira retreats, only to be decapitated by Galford as he magically appears alongside an army of soldiers. Celsior attempts to attack Galford, who effortlessly knocks him down using a wind spell. Approaching Diablo's group, he explains his motive for killing Kira and then instructs his men to handle the scattered elven soldiers in the forest and capture Shera. Diablo then questions whether this was all part of Galford's scheme to take control of the elven forest. Galford declines to respond and traps Diablo in a grid shaped like a sphere that functions as a magical spell meant to capture monsters. Alicia unsheathes her sword and threatens to stop him, but Galford swiftly breaks her sword. This leaves Diablo in shock as Galford's movements exceed human limits, elevating him to a level above 100. Diablo finds a way to escape his confinement by sensing the magical flow of the barrier and destroying its core. After a short conversation, Galford and Diablo prepare to battle. Instantly, Galford gains a clear upper hand over Diablo by maintaining a close proximity to him and unleashing a barrage of sword strikes on the exposed Diablo. To retaliate against the encroaching Galford, Diablo casts Supermind, compelling Galford to distance himself for a more balanced confrontation. Seizing the opportunity, Diablo casts multiple Supermind spells, spreading them across the ground. Employing quick footwork, Galford makes his move and triggers one mine. Diablo then casts Freeze Zone to encase Galford in ice. However, moments later, Galford escapes, leaving Diablo in a weakened state due to the recoil effect of his last spell. Just as Galford prepares to eliminate Diablo with the Heat Sonic skill, Diablo counters by casting Lightning Bullet at Galford, ultimately defeating him. Struggling to rise, Galford questions why Diablo doesn't finish him off. Staying true to his character, Diablo replies that he has lost interest in Galford, deeming him unworthy of such an action. Galford then declares his intention to report Diablo to the Majesty, but Alicia interjects, stating that she will file a counter-report concerning Galford's conduct. Additionally, Diablo assures Galford that if he wishes to fight him again, he can do so at any time he chooses. With that, Galford retreats his troops, and Rem approaches Diablo to request any spare potions he might have. The potions she seeks are not for her, but for the injured elven soldiers. Following this, Diablo comforts an emotional Shera as she mourns the loss of her brother Kira. Time goes by, and back at the Peace of Mind Inn in Faltra City, Diablo reflects on everything that has taken place after. He laments not just how being depleted of his MP affects his mental state, but also how the quest given to him will remain unresolved due to the situation involving Galford. Sylvie then enters Diablo's room with an alcoholic MP potion alternative, and they begin to drink it together. Right after consuming it, Diablo becomes inebriated and confuses Sylvie with a body pillow, prompting him to throw her onto the bed. Despite her objections, he rips off her dress and inserts his fingers into her. Afterward, Sylvie requests that he take responsibility for what transpired, only to discover him fast asleep while still holding her body, which causes her to become upset.
A silhouetted woman defeats a group of adventurers, expressing her dislike for mortal races, while another man kills residents of an unnamed village for venerating the demon lord. Alicia arrives at the castle in the kingdom of Liferia and encounters Paladin Sadler. They engage in a brief conversation, and just as Alicia attempts to leave, Sadler mentions that if she's going back to Feltra City, he'll be heading there too. His reasons are that head priest Lumicina has disclosed a prophecy regarding the demon lord's resurrection in the western city. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the previously mentioned city, Diablo and Rem watch as Shara summons a turkey shot. Rem describes the summon's unique ability called Synchrosight, which permits its caster to see everything it sees. Despite being a weak creature, Shara resolves to form a pact with it and retrieves a magical stone to initiate the pact in the enslavement ritual. Rem also provides Diablo with a magical stone, and then Shara uses her magical stone to establish a pact with her newly summoned turkey shot. Recognizing the potential usefulness of Shara's new summon, Diablo assists her in familiarizing herself with it by utilizing its Synchrosight skill and shooting an arrow at a coin that Diablo tossed. Afterward, Shara remarks that Rem has a peculiar scent, prompting her to suggest that they all take a bath together. At a nearby river stream, Shara and Rem bathe together, while a flustered Diablo declines to watch them because he cannot bear the sight of them bathing. Eventually, Edelgard appears and takes hold of Rem, reassuring them that she is not there to fight, but merely to talk and confirm that Rem is the vessel of Krebskulm. Later that night, Rem shares with Shara that she is the container of Krebskulm and receives a heartfelt embrace from Shara, who vows to assist her. Edelgard then explains that there is a method to resurrect Krebskulm without harming Rem. However, Rem had previously told Diablo that she wishes to break the seal on herself. This situation is problematic as, despite their goals being somewhat compatible, the lingering question is how Diablo will confront Krebskulm once she is revived. Speaking on behalf of Rem, Diablo consents to aid Edelgard with the ritual, which leads to a minor confrontation. Edelgard informs them that 3 days later she will meet them on the night of the full moon at the top of the Starfall Tower. 3 days go by, and Diablo's group eats at a restaurant teeming with cats until Alicia visits them, urging that they return to the Peace of Mind Inn. On their way to the inn, Alicia cautions the group that a paladin named Sadler is in the town and is hunting worshippers of the Demon Lord. Additionally, he is said to possess strength and power that is equal to or surpasses that of Galford. Although they try to avoid an encounter with Sadler, the group unexpectedly runs into him and his followers. Sadler introduces himself along with his title. Diablo then attempts to introduce himself in a normal manner, but he ends up presenting himself in his usual pretentious character persona. Considering that Diablo is a self-proclaimed demon lord, Sadler prepares to eliminate his target. In an effort to defend Diablo, Rem attempts to reason with Sadler, but the paladin quickly incapacitates her with a magical spell. Nevertheless, Diablo is able to dispel the magic affecting Rem. Following a short dispute between Diablo and Sadler, the paladin casts Cement Lock on the demon lord, only for it to bounce back onto himself. As Sadler's subordinates proceed to carry away their turned-to-stone leader, Alicia questions why Diablo did not finish off Sadler, to which he replies that small fries don't pose any threat. However, he notes that if Sadler were to challenge him again, he would handle him accordingly. To this, Alicia smiles and comprehends Diablo's feelings. But Diablo is cautious around Alicia. As twilight begins to descend, the group prepares to head to the Starfall Tower to meet with Edelgard and conduct the summoning ritual.